Hello everyone and welcome back to another Babbling Irons video with myself, Mike and Sloth today. Lads, different news coming out today about Michail Antonio. Obviously Bowen's been playing striker for us, but we've just picked up another injury from international break. Antonio looks like he pulled his hamstring tonight for Jamaica, so that's probably going to be in for out for at least 4 to 6 weeks at minimum. Can't say we're surprised, he's getting on a bit. And it seems like ever since he started playing for Jamaica, that's kind of resonated with his decline in club form. Again, might not be too much, linked with that. It might just be he's regressing. But Antonio injured, pretty devastating news because it now means that we've only got really Ings on the bench. And if Moyes decides to, Mubama. So what's your first thoughts on this news, lads? And we'll kind of get onto what it could mean for the likes of Mubama shortly.
I think that the first reaction is a bit Zoolander and Mugatu with I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. It's just like it's the same stuff every year. How many times have me and Sloth said you can't rely on Antonio? He has hamstrings made of cheese strings, and at any point we are just waiting for him to go. It's been great over the last 2 years. He's actually been absolutely solid with injury, but he's 33 years old. That with the frame that he has and the way that he plays, it was inevitable. Really, it was going to go. I'm just surprised it's taken this long for it to go. And as you say, now we're in a predicament where it's probably out potentially anything from 4 to 6 weeks. Danny Ings is our only senior centre forward. Cornet doesn't get looked at. Mubama, one reason or another, despite being incredibly well liked, as we are told in every single interview by Moyes, isn't selected. One of those things, apparently, we're trying to be patient and be slow. We bring them in. Now is not a time where we can be patient, as why I've said and Sloth has said many times. You just have to start playing youth and taking chances and giving them more time, because there's going to come a point where you might need them and you need to know whether they're able to step up or not. We don't know if Mubama can step up or not. If we'd given more time, at least if we knew he couldn't, that's fine. We can make adjustments and work with that. But we don't even know if he can or if he can't. And that to me is something, when a situation like this happens, is why I'm always such a huge person for kind of pushing on about, how important youth is and giving it a chance and giving it some minutes.
Well, do you think now, Sloth, that this could be maybe a kind of a good thing in terms of, well, okay, mate, it's not the best thing in the world that Antonio is now going to be injured for a set period, but does it maybe force our hands a little bit more in the January transfer window? Because like Mike just mentioned, Danny Ings is our only kind of senior striker, recognised striker now at the club that's going to be fit. Obviously, Jarrod Bowen's been playing there the past few weeks, but again, it's not his natural position by any means. And then you've got someone like Mubama who just hasn't got a look in yet, and he might get given a chance. But do you think it's going to give us a chance to go into that January transfer market with stronger intentions to buy a striker now?
I think it will hopefully do that, but you never know with West Ham. We might just decide that we've got Ings and we've got Mubama, who's there if we need him, and we've also got Cornet, who could be fancied as a forward, but it's very difficult to say for sure. Yeah, we'll go out and buy a striker, because I think we feel like we say that every single window, and we don't end up going out and buying a striker. If anything, we end up selling them. I genuinely wouldn't be shocked if we actually managed to shift Danny Ings and didn't bring anyone in.
Well, if we buy a striker, it's the wrong profile. Scamacca, Ings.
But it's never nice to see anyone get injured, and hopefully, it's not too serious. He can be back in a month or so. But we're just very, very lucky that this didn't happen in the first, week after the window closed. And, he started the season well. I think that's got to be remembered. He started well. And he's not continued the form. But it's a problem we've created ourselves, isn't it? It's another window where we've not signed someone who suits our system, and we're relying on ifs, buts, and maybes.
How much of this do you blame Antonio himself for? Because obviously picking up injuries is never their own fault, unless sometimes people put it down to kind of what regime they're on. But he's been forced to play striker really for a long period of time now for us at the stage of his career where, again, you'd probably like to have another striker to play off of. And we've tried doing that with, Scamacca recently. Obviously, Bowen's now playing striker there, and Antonio's kind of dropped down to second striker. But a lot of the time, by and large, especially the last couple of seasons, Antonio was forced to play in pretty much every match just because we didn't have any other options, and no one else fitted the system. So, how much of this blame can we put on Antonio? Because he's done an awful lot during his time, especially the last few seasons. And is it just a season too far for him? Should we have addressed this in the summer and made sure that we did sign a proper striker? Because obviously Scamacca departed and no one was brought in to replace him.
Yeah, I don't think you can blame. It's not his fault. And look, what you're effectively asking with that is kind of like, should he have retired from international football? Well, he was a late bloomer anyway, and he didn't get called up to international football. I don't blame anyone for wanting to represent Jamaica. Oh no, I'm going to go on international camp in Jamaica. Ooh, like it's hardly hell on earth.
In England and in the cold weather, we'll go play in Jamaica. Yeah,
but it's even with that, it's a chance to represent someone internationally, and I think you can't really turn that down. And I don't blame him. Don't blame him for playing as much football as he does. The only blame is on the club and the transfers that have taken place. We could have addressed this, we didn't, and it's the consequences of our actions coming back to, or say lack of action coming back to haunt us.
Well, I guess the thing is, Mike, maybe point this back to you with what you mentioned on Mubama there. He hasn't really been given a look in. Obviously, he was kept in the summer. We did a video on this saying, it's really frustrating for him that he's obviously rejected the chance to sign that contract. And now he's in a situation where actually he might get that chance and he might get that leap to get a little bit more of a sniff with Premier League football and get that sense of what it's like and try and show David Moyes what he can do at this level. How much trust do you think David Moyes is now going to put in Mubama, and how much does he have to put into him? Because Antonio is going to be injured for quite a while now. Hamstrings are never easy to come back from. They have to be carefully monitored, and we can't be playing Jared Bowen up top in Europe and domestically, and then obviously the Carabao Cup as well in December. There's a lot of fixtures coming up, so is he almost forced to play his hand now?
In terms of trust, I don't think he'll place a lot of trust in him, and that's not me being negative of Moyes, in the sense that he doesn't know he can trust him.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that. He doesn't know he can trust him, therefore he's going to be cautious. That's just the way Moyes is. You have to respect it. He's won us a trophy out of it by having that approach and the way he's dealt with players. He's been our most successful manager, and we're in our most successful period in recent memory for a lot of us. So that has to be commended. He's done a great job in that respect. When it comes to Mubama, he's maybe got to look at this as how all those many years ago, Harry Kane found his route into Tottenham. They had an injury crisis, and he essentially exploded onto the scene as part of their Europa League team. And then from there, he then managed to gather enough kind of momentum that he was then able to get into their first team. That's where I think Mubama's really now got to look at this as you say, we're probably not going to play Bowen every game now in that kind of position. We kind of did before, but I don't see it potentially happening. I think other players will go up front before Mubama does, such as Paqueta will move into a forward position. I even think he'll play Ben Rama there, and maybe even Cornet if he decides to ever remember Cornet is part of our team.
Do you think he play Danny Ings over him?
I think based on the last time we made a substitute for a striker and Mubama came in over Danny Ings, I think that is maybe telling you that's where Danny Ings is now at. I think I don't think even Moyes can sit there and review all of the performances that Danny Ings has had and said that it's a worthwhile substitute to make anymore. We know he likes experience, and that's why Danny Ings will most likely come on, because of his experience over inexperience. However, that experience hasn't translated into anything productive on the pitch. And I feel bad for Danny Ings because I feel like we were constantly going in on him. It's not because we don't think he's a bad player. It's just that he's offered so little, and it's because he's at the wrong club.
It's not his game, is it? We've said it so many times, it's not his game.
Yeah,
and I guess for someone like Mubama, he's already shown maybe slightly better characteristics to play in that system and can operate a little bit more diverse than what Danny Ings can as a sole striker. So would you, it's a really difficult one to kind of pinpoint what we're going to do now, because obviously, yeah, Bowen has been playing the striker. So I guess that is the saving grace from this. Like you mentioned, Sloth, Antonio was playing pretty well at the start of the season, just wasn't scoring goals. And he was kind of, again, pivotal to how we were playing. But Jarrod Bowen's kind of moved into that role in the past few games, and he's shown that he can play there. But then we've also got the kind of difference, because then we're trying to play Kudus out on the right, and we've seen that he's less effective out there, and it kind of, we're still trying to find that balance. But could it just be that, you know, Mubama could be that answer right now, and you know, you play Bowen out on the right, you know, we shift Kudus central or Paqueta, however he wants to do it. But could the answer actually be staring us right in the face right now? And maybe that January signing of a striker isn't actually necessary.
It's 100% necessary. Like, it is a must, in my opinion, because we have to be looking to move someone on. And, you know, as unfortunately it is Danny Ings, we have to be looking to move him on just for financial sakes and playing style sakes. But it's a situation where, you know, Kudus reportedly wasn't very happy at being utilised as a centre forward a lot while he was at Ajax. So obviously we don't want to upset the apple cart and do that again. But I think he's definitely someone who, if you said to Mubama, you got Kudus behind you, and you know, that experience, that sort of thing, that's going to be a boost for him. It's going to be a confidence booster. Is he going to play him over someone like, you know, the mystery man that is Cornet, if he still exists? It's that's the question. I think it is a necessity that we move for a striker in January. It will just be a case of,
even without Antonio's injury, it was a necessity to have another striker. I think it was just always the case with Mubama. It could be something that is staring us in the face, that actually it could work on, because the other thing is, the weird thing about West Ham is we tended to not, for many years, apart from what Antonio's done, we've actually kind of always functioned on a striker that gets the odd goal. Doesn't score very many, normally less than 10 goals in a season. So even if Mubama went and got, say, 3-4 goals, right, over the course of this season by playing, that's probably up there with most centre forwards we've had at West Ham, if we're being completely honest. But if what he does is actually allow the three behind him in Paqueta, Kudus and Bowen to function, then he's done his job as a West Ham centre forward, because his role, or Antonio's role, is really to occupy the defence, keep them honest, to chase Hassel and Harry, to be our first line of press, and to get the occasional goal when he can. Antonio is arguably, he's overachieved in that over the last few years, including with his injuries, and which is why also I don't think anyone could blame him for what's happened with this injury, because he also deserves a lot of credit for the fact he's not had any injuries really for 2 years, compared to what he did. And that's a lot because he changed his conditioning and his diet and how he looked after himself. So it's a catch-22, because we don't, again, and we keep coming back to it, we don't know if Mubama can be trusted. I think, you know, as a centre forward within the Premier League, to deal with that pressure and to play against those quality types of defenders. However, if his role is purely to be a pressing forward and not to have pressure on kind of getting goals and scoring,
he's always going to have that pressure, though, Mike. He's a striker.
He's going to have that pressure. Plus, he's going to have that. He's going to put that pressure on himself because he's a centre forward. But what I mean is, if the pressure is more on him, in which to be the facilitator to allow the other guys to get the space they need in which to then go and score off him, and it allows, say, Cornet to play as a second striker next to him, then I think that works for him. And I don't think Mubama will not. I think if Mubama plays, Mubama will score. I don't think it's going to be he's not going to be prolific, but he's going to score goals just by the nature of how he is as a player. So it could be something staring us in the face. However, it won't happen, because that front three, Moyes knows he needs to get those three players in, and at the moment he's comfortable with them as a free. And when he takes Souček out of our midfield three, he's not comfortable with how we defend. And we've also seen in how much it kind of not cripples, but it takes away a lot of what Ward-Prowse has done well for us. So if Souček doesn't play in there, So again, it's the problem. If you want to play Mubama, I think then you probably have to go in January to bring in a midfielder.
I think the main difference now up until that January transfer window, while Antonio is injured, is going to be just the minutes Mubama gets off the bench to try and make that impact and build up that trust slowly. Because, you know, right now we've been seeing in the last couple of games, we've seen Antonio come on, you know, with 20 and 15 minutes to go. We now have that. If we need a different option off the bench in our next couple of Premier League games, say against Palace or Burnley, we need something different. I feel like what you mentioned about, you know, him coming on over Ings is going to happen again. I think Mubama will probably be the one to come on if we do need that, or it will be like the pair of them coming on together to play in a two. So I just think it's going to improve his minutes over the next kind of month or two, however long Antonio is injured for. And I'm hoping in that time he does have those moments to try and impress Moyes and build up that trust slowly. And we might actually go into the January transfer window saying, okay, we can probably move on Ings, we can bring in a striker. But we've also got Mubama that's, you know, adapted really well during that period.
I feel like it's such a shame that we had his goal chalked off against Brentford last season because, you know, obviously it's butterflies, wings and all that kind of jazz. But, you know, it's if he had scored that goal, gets a Premier League goal under his belt, is he going to be a lot more confident? Is he going to be trusted a bit more? And I'm just...
He has that argument stuff, doesn't he? Saying, I came off the bench and I influenced the game. I came off and I scored for you. You give me time, I can do it again.
Yeah. So I'm really disappointed for him that was obviously taken away from him. But I think in terms of going into January, you know, it's an old cliche, but you know, if you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the lottery. And as we said with Harry Kane just then, you know, it's if you don't play these players, you don't know what you're going to get. And it's one thing to judge a player based off what they're doing in the youth team and on the training pitch, all that kind of thing, which I kind of alluded to in the previous episode. But I think now is the time that you kind of have to you have to play him because Ings isn't going to do anything.
Also, it's a good. If you don't play someone like that now, it's also a very key indicator to players like Marshall, who at the moment is tearing it up in our under-21 team, who's arguably in some other teams may start getting on the cusp of a first team or starting to think, maybe might get a call up to the first team. If you don't start playing the likes of Mubama have been in and around for this period, players maybe will then start to think as to their futures. So it also has a longer term thing. Obviously, once Mubama plays, it's up to him to prove his worth, his place. Absolutely. However, he can't prove his place arguably in the first team without getting first team minutes. I know the other parts that Sloth said is 100% true. Has to prove it on the training pitch, etc. He has proved it in the under-21s. So that he has that as his background. And when he has those fleeting moments in Europa, it's looked decent as well. Got a goal for us last season. Again, it could have had a goal against Brentford last year. So he's shown flashes. However, he needs a bit more of a consistent time to then show if he can do it. And if he can't, great, that's fine. Then we know he can't. And that's, I think, all you can ask for is to then say, you've given the boy a fair crack and over a sustained period, whether that's a month or not, but you've given them a sustained time in which to show that whether they're up to it or not. And if they're not up to it, they go on loan and so on. But
hopefully he does get those moments over the next kind of month or so. It is frustrating Antonio being injured. We obviously hope he gets back to it soon because we could do definitely with his presence in some games. And, you know, when he's on it, he's a handful. So, hopefully the news will come out soon about how long it's going to be once he gets that checked out. And we will keep you updated as we always do. And let us know in the comments what you think about the whole situation, whether Mubama should now get a chance. Would you go with someone like Danny Ings who has that experience? Let us know how you would like to see us operate now Antonio is injured in the Premier League. And make sure to leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. And lads, until next time.
Come on, you Irons.